All right, Aaron Parker, Parker Safes and Vaults, Shelbyville, Tennessee. Um, we're going to talk today about cheap safes, shopping for a safe, that kind of stuff. So, um, we've been in the business. I started the business in 2008. I had an uncle in the safe business before that for years and years. And so we've been in the business about 15 years. And there's a big contrast between what I know now and what I knew when I bought my first safe. And I wasn't in the business when I bought my first safe. But um, I think maybe I can shed some light on some things to look for, or maybe things that you just were completely unaware of when it comes to buying your first safe, or maybe second safe for that matter. What I get though is a question. It usually comes in a phone call, right? And it'll be something like, "Hey, this is Joe. I'm looking for a safe. I've got some firearms I want to protect, and what's the cheapest 40 gun safe you have?" And I'm like, okay, so I kind of know where this one's going. I've heard this call. It's almost verbatim. It's kind of funny. But what's the cheapest 40 gun safe you've got? So right then, I already know that they've probably been to the big box stores. They're looking for just a cheap safe. They haven't done any research on different models or brands or anything, or if they have, it's only based on price and gun count, right? And that's okay. I mean, that's where I started too. But if I contrast that with a different call that I get, maybe it'll be something like, just calling to see if you had any American Security BF2 safes available. Oh, okay, that's a different call, because now I know that this customer has done some research. They've already been through, the web. They've gone through a bunch of, customer testimonials and things like that, and referrals, and they've narrowed it down to a higher end safe. And so, why does that matter? Well, I think the first caller, let's call him Joe, right? He's just trying to check off a box, as I was when I bought our safe. With my wife and I were just married. We were I think we just had our first kid, and I was like, well, I got to get everything protected. It's like it's a box to check. It's like, can't have firearms rolling around the house anymore. Got to get it protected. And you start thinking, well, that'd be a good idea. We can put some other stuff in it too, some documents or whatever. That's a good idea. So then the next thing I did is I counted my weapons, and I thought, all right, I've got like 24 weapons or whatever. I probably need about a 24 gun safe, maybe a little bigger. Let's call it a 30 gun. Good. So now I know I need to get a 30 gun safe, and who has the cheapest one, right? And I know that's what most people do based on this phone call and just kind of how I can piece together where their mind's at, right? So the thing that I didn't know back then that I do now is that there's a big difference in the construction of safes. And the price tag isn't always the best thing to consider, right? I know sometimes it's the only thing, and I get that. But there's a time for that. And hopefully I'll remember to go over some of that. But what I'm saying is there's a huge difference in a higher end safe versus a what I would call an entry level or a big box store safe, as far as the construction and the fire ratings. So, for instance, a lot of fire ratings that are on the stickers on the inside of the door on a lot of safes, they've never been tested. And I shouldn't say a lot, but there are companies out there that just don't test their stuff. And if they do test it, it's an in-house test, and nobody monitoring, and it's kind of like, or they just do the math, right? They might just do the math, slap a sticker on there. And I say that not to bash on any company or anything, but I'm just trying to let you know that there's no industry standard when it comes to these fire ratings. And it's kind of a bummer, because nobody's holding anybody's feet to the fire if the rating is wrong, or it's like it's false advertising, but no one ever really calls anybody out on it. On contrast that with, there are some companies out there that do send their products out to have it tested, and I think that of course those are going to be a more higher price safe, because that testing is more money, and the safe's just different. But so security, when I bought my first safe, I just figured it was good enough. Like, no one can get into it. You can't pry the door off. It's a safe, for crying out loud, right? Like, I didn't realize that they were even the one I bought was so, you know, the metal was just so thin, right? I know now. And what, this is an example. So I got these cutaways here on my desk to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this would be the front door of a safe. This would be your standard big box door type safe. It's nothing real cheap, and it's not a real high end one. It's just middle of the road. But that's the entire thickness of the metal in the door. There's nothing else. That's it. So that's about 12 gauge steel. This particular safe, this would have been the door. The lock would have been here. And what they did, I had a buddy that just needed in, couldn't get his lock to work, which is also cheap, and it failed. And so he just took a pair of electric shears and just cut the darn thing. I think he could have done a nicer job, but he just cut the whole panel right off of the door and then got in there and manipulated the bolt works and got in, right? Same thing here. This is your standard big box door type safe. Again, the body real thin. That's like 12 gauge, might even be 14 gauge. Might be 16. Well, 14 gauge, I'll say. And this is, the door. The doors are kind of made to look thick. This is upside down, but if you were to see the edge of the door before we cut it with a Sawzall, by the way, just cut the whole corner off. So that ought to tell you something. Prior to that, it was pried open by my son because we wanted to strip all the drywall out before we took it to the salvage yard. So there's just not much to them. So they don't handle pry attacks very well. And matter of fact, I think I'm going to try to put some pictures maybe right in here. Yeah. So anyway, this is about all that you're going to get on your big box door type safe. So this is just the drywall. That's the fire rating. In here is your bolt works, and you'll hear things like massive 4-inch thick door. Well, yeah, the door's 4 inches thick, but it's hollow inside. That's where your bolt works are. There's nothing really in there. It's not a massive 4-inch thick steel plate, right? So, I haven't seen a 4-inch thick steel plate yet. But we've got 1.5 from Graph Under, right? But that's a little overkill. And then the fire ratings, right? So this would be a safe. I'm going to try to not show what brand that is, but anyway, this safe. This is one we opened up, and a buddy of mine that's a professional safe cracker got called, and we opened that up, and the fabric on the inside actually caught on fire, so nothing survived. But see, the kicker is that the way they kind of get away with that is that they'll get you a new safe. So yeah, everything, you lost your whole collection and you lost the safe, but guess what? That company will replace that safe. It's a warranty. So woohoo. So great, right? So now you start another collection. I mean, let's think that through. You start another collection and then you put it in that same kind of safe. Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's not what I would do. So I'm just saying there are safes out there that are a little bit better or a lot better, quite frankly. And but I get it that budget is kind of everything. So my advice is let's consider our budget, right? So I know that if you're just getting started, you've got a family, you've got formula to buy or whatever, things are tight, you're both working. Trust me, I've been there. I get it. What I'm saying, though, is that if you've already got a budget for a safe, it might be worthwhile to hang on to that money and try to add to it when you can to increase the type of safe that you buy, to get a better safe, right? Because if you just spend the money here that you had and you're just wanting to get it checked off your to-do list, you're probably going to buy the cheapest safe you can, and maybe it works for you. And maybe nothing bad ever happens, and that'd be great. And it'll keep weapons out of the hands of children and all that. Maybe snatch and grab guys, and that's great. So it might work out. But if you were to add just a little bit to that budget, maybe depends on how much you have. But anyway, let's just say that you research a particular brand. You find out through maybe safe crackers or locksmiths or safe and vault stores what safe is best or better than most for the money that you're going to spend, and you just need to increase it a little bit. Well, now we really only have to kind of think about the difference. So really the safe isn't costing all this. It's just costing the difference between what you were going to spend anyway and what it really is. And there is a huge difference in safe pricing out there. And I would say also that just because you buy a high or expensive safe doesn't mean you get a great safe. I mean, there are a lot of folks out there selling cheaper safes for just a lot of money, and that doesn't make sense either. So do some research, figure out what safe works best, and what safe has the best reviews, the best history as it relates to fire protection and security, and then maybe all the warranty kind of stuff. Just look at all that stuff. Choose a safe, figure out how much that is, shop around for that particular model, see who's got the best price, and then save for that amount, right? Save, and then when you buy a safe, now you've got a real safe that's going to do its job, and maybe an heirloom too, because I mean, some of the brands we carry, they'll be passed down with kids. They're not just disposable, cheap tin boxes, cabinets that are just going to get trashed someday, right? So anyway, that would be my advice. Now, if your budget just won't allow it, or if time is of the essence, like you got a little 2-year-old and he's running around crazy, and you got guns stashed up on top of the refrigerator or behind, get them locked up. Like I would say, just in that case, if you can't afford a higher end safe that's going to be the heirloom quality one that I'm talking about, well, just get a cabinet. Just do something and get a metal cabinet, lock it up, get them out of the hands of children, because it's not always your kid. Your kid might be trained up well, but if he brings friends over, now we could have a problem. So lock them up. It's a really good idea. Now, if you don't want to go that route and you're like, yeah, well, you don't know what you're talking about, you old guy, yeah, heck with that. I'm just buying the cheapest safe I can. That's fine. Now, here are some ways to make that safe even better. Okay. So what you could do is you can take that cheap safe. Maybe you already have one. You can't afford another one. But let's say you got a cheap safe. So we can take that cheap safe and anchor it down. And I kind of recommend anchoring down a safe anyway. We just did a video on that. It was supposed to be kind of funny. I was doing a video about anchoring down a safe and what anchors to use and everything. And then meanwhile, my sons were trying to dress up as bad guys. They came in, backed the truck up, grabbed the safe, pulled it, threw it in the truck, took off right behind me. And I was supposed to act like I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, that's just if it would have been anchored down, we wouldn't have had that problem, right? It couldn't just be slid out of a garage. And so anchor down a safe, hide it if you can, like just throw a blanket on it if it's in the garage, or a tarp, or build some shelves around it or something like that. And then if you have some smaller stuff that's very, precious to you, what you can do is you can put that in like a fire rated file safe like you get from Walmart. They're pretty cheap, $30, $60, depending on the size. But if you put your stuff in there, passports, old pictures, if stuff like that, birth certificates, stuff that you just can't afford to lose in a fire, and put that box in your safe, now we've kind of doubled up and we've exponentially increased the fire rating. So those are some things that you can do. Another thing, if you have your firearms inside of a safe, and any safe for that matter, but especially the drywall line safes, if you just put them in one of these gun socks, right? Everybody's seen these things. They're just like a tube, and you just put your rifle or shotgun down in there or whatever, and that will actually really help if you have a fire, because when there's a fire, this drywall releases like a chemical. It comes out as a vapor, and it'll just coat everything in kind of a caustic, corrosive mist, and it's not good if you don't get in there fast and oil everything up. Speaking of which, if that happens, get your safe open as quick as you can. Do whatever you have to do to get it open, and then take all your weapons apart and douse them in oil and clean them up real good. And it'll really, if they sit in that safe for weeks or even days, it's really hard to get them cleaned up. The bluing will be gone. It'll be a mess. But I have seen that weapons just in a sock or in a case or like a Tyvek sleeve or a whatever fare a heck of a lot better than ones that are just sitting there naked. Anyway, if you're in the market for a safe, or and you're just not sure what to do, and you want to give me a call, feel free to call me. Even if you're not buying from us, I'll try to steer you in the right direction based on my experience. And if you want a better safe, or even inexpensive one. We deliver locally here in Tennessee and Alabama, Kentucky, parts of Georgia, and we also ship nationwide. So just about anything in the safe world we can help you out with. Vault doors, high-end safes, all the way down to entry-level stuff, pistol safes, whatever. And as far as shipping nationwide, we have that you might think, well, that's going to cost so much. I think you might be happy with our pricing, and even with freight, sometimes it works out. And so we also have a database of like local to you safe and vault installers. So anyway, vetted and guys that I would trust. So anyway, I hope that helps. I forgot to look at my notes here, but that should be about it. But yeah. So anyway, if I can help you out, give me a call, and yeah, God bless.